the absolute finest entertainment on the internet. Join us in fighting back against evil.
It's hotter than a blacktop in July, sweating like a sinner in a church, and I just wanna get out with my crew tonight and shoot at the lights. Got a couple 40s full of hops and fun, looking for a good time, gotta live it up. Leave behind the city, hop inside my truck. No, we don't give up. We're gonna paint the night red. We can holler till we're dead. We're down to turn up. We're up to get down. Saying, hey, y'all.
Planet Hang live show, the absolute finest form of entertainment in the state of Vermont. Thursday night, 8 p.m. And this week's show is extremely special, much like every week when we do this. But this week, it's a special spooky Halloween edition of Planet Hang. So as we share this up, the most important part of the show, where we network with everybody across the interwebs about the wonderful podcast that puts Vermont on a pedestal and allows us to talk politics and community. Let's make sure we share it so that those of us watching and paying attention can have some other people enjoy what we enjoy so much. So I'm going to share it into my spooky stories this week. This week's show was packed full of information, including a special guest, Paul Dane, the current chair of the VTGOP Republican Party. And we're going to have an interview, much like the Zach Harvey interview that I did last week, that you guys should all check out. And clips are going to be coming out as this election for chair and vice chair and all the executive positions for the Republican Party in Vermont go into their reorganization pretty much next weekend at this point, November 8th. Rachel Morris is here, Jeff Moore, Maho Basho. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do one of the most important things. I'm going to share this live stream. Paul Dane interview. Hashtag Planet Hang. Hashtag VTGOP. Locker Room, MAGA Vermont, 802 VT Alliance. Sharing it into groups is really important. Mature Members 2.0. And with that, what I'm going to do next is I've got an intro video that I put together about what tonight's show is going to be about. And here are all the topics. So I'm going to add this to the stage. First, we got the Paul Dane interview, current chair of VTGOP. We had a huge drug bust here in Brattleboro. What's the deal? It's someone who works at a drug treatment place. Crime heating up in the CF Church parking lot. Look at all the drugs paraphernalia. What's up with this? This guy was convicted guilty for the arrest and murder. Narco boats blown out of the water. And we got a lawsuit, Verity Clark Snap lawsuit. We'll see what's the deal with all of that. Planet Hang live show. This show is going to be great, much like all the other shows that we have. And I'm excited about this. And because we have a lot of people tuning in over on all of our platforms. We have YouTube going, Facebook, and X.com, along with Twitch. And all of our viewers are welcome to tune in and share and try to grow our community. So what we're going to put up next is this interview is going to be pretty entertaining. Okay. Paul Dame, the current chair of the VTGOP. He's going to be coming on right here very shortly. Live interview discussing Vermont. If you've got questions, write the questions in the comment section, and your chances of me reading it live to Paul Dame go way up. Now, I asked for some questions from county chairs of the GOP here in Vermont, and some of them wrote questions, and I put together a list of questions for Paul. And so this interview is going to be highly entertaining. And with no further ado, here comes Paul Dame, current VTGOP chair. And let me pull this down. Paul Dame, how are you, sir?
Doing well. And yourself, Hank?
I'm doing great. Thank you for doing the interview. Current chair of the VTGOP, would you give a little introduction of yourself and maybe explain who you are, what you do, what it all means?
Sure. Yeah. I'm a native Vermonter. I grew up in Brandon, Vermont, which is important because the very first act I had as chairman back in 2021 when I first got elected was to hold a Let's Go Brandon rally in my hometown, Brandon, Vermont, which made worldwide news. I was on Australia Sky News. And it was a lot of fun because what we were trying to do at that time, it was, it was all about Biden inflation and how the cost of everything was going up. The cost of gas was going up. It was getting tough to live here in Vermont. And we said, hey, we can't help everybody all the time. Let's pick one town in Vermont, send a bunch of people there to buy gas, go to the restaurant, do a little economic stimulus here, self-made. And so we went to my hometown of Brandon, Vermont, had a Let's Go Brandon rally. And it was a lot of fun. We had 200 people show up in the pouring cold November rain. I'm a Guns N' Roses fan. And on the first weekend of deer season. And we raised like 10 grand for the party my first weekend on. So that was a lot of fun. I still run into people now who remember meeting me for the first time there. So I grew up in Brandon, ended up graduating from the University of Vermont, stuck around in the Burlington area. And I actually served in the legislature in one term. I ran in 2012 unsuccessfully. I came back, ran again in 2014. I knocked off a 6-year incumbent Democrat. And I'm still the only Republican to win that district in what's now the city of Essex Junction. Only Republican in the last 25 years to win that seat. I knocked off the number one advocate for gun control. This woman is also someone who got a job lobbying for this firm that dealt with the Death with Dignity Act or physician-assisted suicide. We knocked her off, and it was a lot 14? Of fun. So I served one term. 2014. That was, we had a big Republican wave back in 2014. It was sort of a pushback against Governor Shumlin. And so I was a freshman that year. And also our Republican House and Senate leaders, Patty McCoy in the House and Scott Beck in the Senate, they were all freshmen with me that year in 2014 that we had. I think we were up to 53 Republicans. And so the success we had last year in 2024 is a new high water mark. From the first time that I was involved back then. So I served one term, lost my reelection in 2016, and I've just been helping out in the party ever since. And I got elected chair in 2021. So I've been doing this for 4 years now.
Okay, so 2024, let's talk about that. It was a huge year for the GOP, and you were obviously chair during that. And while we know it's a team effort, I want to hear what your biggest personal success during all of that was.
I think really the thing that I felt the most proud of that set a lot of other things in motion is that at the beginning of that cycle, the governor and the party were miles apart, and through kind of more systematic, intentional steps I was taking along the way, we actually had the governor come to our first major event during our platform presidential convention. He came, he spoke, and after that, there was a lot of work that we did together with the governor's staff to help push a lot of our candidates over the line, and it was just building a team with the governor's people, with House leaders, with Senate leaders that were getting our candidates elected, looking at where we had the best opportunity. No matter how much money you have, you always wish you had more. But I think we did pretty well with the limited resources we had in a time when people just thought there's no way anything good is going to happen in Vermont. It's a lost cause. And since the 2024 election, I got to go to a lot of people, a lot of outside groups, in September, October, and say, hey, uh, you're going to see big things here. I'm going to ask you for a small amount now. You're going to see the results that we get in 2024, and I'm going to come back in a big way and talk to you about 2026. And so it's been great to be able to deliver on those results, and it's really set us up, I think, to be more engaged with people who are looking at Vermont for the first time, saying, "Hey, there's something going on here." And if there's a big win in governor's race in New Jersey on Tuesday, that's really going to help us in Vermont to get donors from around the country. Right in Texas, they're like, "Hey, we got everything we need here. Where can we actually go out and plow some fallow ground?" The Northeast is ripe for that kind of stuff. So, we produced some good results that people didn't believe until they happened in 2024, and now we get to go back and say, "Hey, we can do a little bit more of that and continue that train of success."
Okay, so this next question is okay. I'm going to read it to you. The other candidates that filed to run for chair both pledged to focus on the financial well-being of the party and pledged not to take a salary, the salary stuff. He goes, will you be making the same commitment, and why?
No, I won't. And part of that is because for the first 3 years I ran the party, I barely got anything, and I've never submitted reimbursements. I've never tracked mileage and sent in all that stuff. I've heard horror stories of chairs from other states who they don't get paid, but they submit so much in reimbursements. It was like $90,000. So, so that's just the approach I've had. I don't nickel and dime the party. I think it's more transparent to just say, hey, pay me what I need to dedicate all the time that I do. And anybody watching, who's got emails from me at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3:30 a.m., who's heard me on the radio a couple of years, I think the 24 election, I drove down to Brattleboro to do a spot on the 6 a.m. show. So I'm getting up at 4 o'clock, leaving the Burlington area. So I put in the hours, I put in the time, and I would just caution folks: you usually get what you pay for. And in the past, if you have somebody who can't put in the time and doesn't want to take the paycheck, I just don't think you're going to get as much out of somebody as you will with me. I think Vermont Republicans get a lot of value for their money. So I'm not afraid to say that. And it really started once once I got sued by one of the members of our executive committee, and I had the Chittenden County Sheriff show up at my place of business and hand me documentation saying that I was getting sued for stuff I was doing at the party. I was like, I'm just not doing this for free. That just doesn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Good answer. So now this next question, it sort of popped up in some of the comments here, but there's another way that this is a nuanced way. Now, this question was aired by several chairs and several people inside of this party. Paul, there's an obvious divide in the party. How do you plan to bring unity? And second part of the question, down here in Brattleboro, obviously, we have a huge pro-Trump contingent. How do you think MAGA Vermonters fit into VTGOP?
Yeah, I think that MAGA Vermonters, Phil Scott Vermonters, I mean, Republicans of every stripe, all want the same thing on the state level. We just want to live in a place that's affordable. Vermont is so beautiful. There's so many great people here. Big problem is the government, and that's a problem that we can fix. And so I think when we focus on the state level, I don't think your most ardent Trump supporter and your most ardent Phil Scott supporter, if they were both in the legislature, they'd be voting the same way on every one of those bills. They'd be voting against the Global Warming Solutions Act, which threatened to add a $4 per gallon tax on home heating fuel. They'd be voting against doing the same old, with education funding and just keep throwing good money after bad. They would have voted for some of the things Republicans actually accomplished, even being in the minority. We repealed the bulk of the military pension tax. We got that done, even though we didn't have a majority. And Trump Republicans and Phil Scott Republicans all would have voted the same way on those things. So I think when we narrow our focus, that's where we get the greatest alignment and the greatest unity. If we try to have, everybody tells us their top 100 things are going to be different. If we talk about your top 3, there's a lot more likelihood that we're going to be in alignment. And so from my perspective at the state party, it's let's major on the majors and major on the things that we can actually control and that we can realistically accomplish. And as we do that, and as we see success, success breeds success. And we're going to get more people involved. We're going to get more people as candidates, more people as donors when they see positive momentum, which is, I think, what we have after the 2024 election.
So with this divide part of the question, okay, clearly that there's a thing with Trump. So what do you like? I mean, don't you see? I mean, you got to know that people sort of say this and there's sort of an opinion to one side of the group of people or the other, that Paul does not like Trump, and do you think that that's setting you back at all with the party or with the group, or how does this play out for you? Like, can you just talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I'm sort of, I give Trump credit where he gets credit. I mean, I put out a press release a week or two ago, peace in the Middle East. I mean, the Trump freed Palestine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
The border is secure. Even Bernie Sanders is out there publicly giving Trump credit on those things. And where Trump's right, I have no problem, supporting him and doing that. But I also think that not everything that Trump does is helpful to Vermont. And I think one of the places is, Vermont has a lot of trade with Canada. And so the state of tariffs where we are right now, there's a lot of Vermonters that have concern. Now, are we going to get to the end of this trade discussion and be in a better place? I'm optimistic that we are.
Yeah,
but I understand how some people who have had a lot of Canadians come down and support their business in the past haven't seen that. That's a place where, Trump hasn't gotten it done yet.
We like to ignore that down in the southern part of the state. We pretend we're back down onto the, we don't see Canadians all that often down here. We do, because we got 91 cruising through, but usually by the time they get to us, they've got bigger plans than Brattleboro. So they just are either they're just stopping. True. They're just stopping for gas before they go to New York or something. But it's a good point. Okay. The Canadian thing and the border and communities up there on the border definitely probably are pissed about and maybe just the tone of how Trump teases them so much so that they have meltdowns. It makes it worse.
Well, I think there is a big cultural difference between Trump, being from New York and Vermonters. Just, we don't it's a different world. We don't conduct ourselves like that. There aren't very many Vermonters I know who talk the way that Trump does. But if you go to other parts of the country, especially in New York, it's a different world, and it molds people differently. And I think that's Trump is a product of his environment, just like we are in Vermont.
So settle the beef for all of the super MAGAs in the GOP. Like, is there space for them there with Paul Dame as the chair? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, if we're focused on what we can realistically accomplish in Vermont, we're focused on those policy objectives. Absolutely. If people don't care about what's going on in Vermont and they want to support Trump no matter what, without thinking about the Vermont impact, I'm not going out there telling people you can't do that. But it's not going to help us win seats in the House and Senate. And really, that's my focus. I know there's a lot of folks who want more attention on federal races, and I get it. The problem is we just don't have a bench deep enough because we're so thin in our House and Senate leaders. If we want to be more competitive in federal races, it's probably going to take a couple of cycles for us to build up enough people in the House that run for Senate, that run for statewide. If we want to have competitive races in those federal races, and New England's a tough place, and it's hard to come out of nowhere and run for a federal seat in New England if you don't have some kind of background and some name recognition. And so, we can get there, but it's going to take a couple steps along the way.
We're going to get back to that exact topic, but what I'm going to do now is switch into this topic here of. Well, first of all, I'm going to throw this up on the board. The VTGOP race, state chair elections for the VTGOP, Paul versus Russ. It's going down, and what I want to...
I look so grumpy in that photo.
Yeah.
It's funny. I see that now. Like, I know exactly where that was from. It was one of the days, after an election, they have all the major party leaders go to the Secretary of State's office, and we're going through, election results like town by town. And it's like I know where that was from. I should have sent you the photo I have from my Let's Go Brandon rally that I use on my Facebook page. So maybe we'll update that. But that was good. It's a fair one. Both Russ and I are kind of in that same position. That's a good balanced.
It's going down. I have something planned for you guys. So how about this? Can you tell us about what's happening this weekend with the forum?
Yeah, so there's two forums. There's one in Barry Town at the Canadian Club at 8:30 in the morning. Both Russ and I will be there. I can't remember if other candidates are invited to that. So that I'm going to get up early, head to Barry, and then in the afternoon at 2:00 we'll be down in Rutland. And I know that's chair and vice chair candidates are going to be there. And it's just I'm actually kind of excited that we have.
Are you going to debate?
It depends on who you ask. I think both of the folks who wanted to set that up wanted to avoid the word debate. So maybe we'll call it a candidate forum. I'm not opposed.
What if Greg starts some stuff, though? What if Greg starts some stuff for Russ, or Russ starts shooting some zingers at you, man?
You better be ready to take them back. That's all I say. I mean, I'm one of those people. I'm going to treat everybody fairly, because here's the thing. I'm confident. I've got the support I need to win this race. And after this race is done, Russ is still going to be a senator that I want to support and protect. So I've got no interest in dragging somebody through the mud, because I don't want to endanger his reelection. So I'm still going to be supporting Russ as a state senator.
I like the way he votes on the Senate. When you look back at how he voted, because when I did his interview, I started researching and really started looking at every single vote I could find. And I was like, perfect score.
Yeah, if you want to talk about perfect score, my first year as a freshman legislator, I literally got a 100% rating from the American Conservative Union, the group that does CPAC.
There you go.
Me and 3 other Republicans went 11 for 11. And not only did I get a high score, I created an amendment to a Democrat bill called the Dame Amendment that was used by the ACU to score other legislators. It was like, did you agree with Paul Dame? If you did, then you're conservative. If you didn't, you're not. So anybody
conservative that you are the bar.
I set the standard that year. So yeah, and the thing was, this is the thing that really frustrated me in the legislature is I think, I got in there to get stuff done and to change the way things were working in Montpelier. And I saw a lot of folks who had been there for a long time and were just kind of going with the flow. It was, sort of like Stockholm syndrome. And so this kind of simple bill comes up. It's a fee bill, right? So all the fees you pay on your driver's license or to get a real estate license and all this stuff. Some of those fees were going up to 50% to 100%. They were doubling. And I said, we don't have to just vote no on what the Democrats do. We can present an alternative. And so that's what I did. I put together an amendment that capped fees at between 3 to 5%, trying to stay with inflation. Right? Zero might have been, a little Pollyannish. I say, let's look at 3 to 5%. Cap that spending. And then I also came up with spending cuts to offset that. So we still had a balanced budget. And I put that forward. The Democrats didn't know what to do. They'd never had a Republican push back like that. And even some of my colleagues didn't they're like, oh, you can do that? And I was like, yeah, you can. So I had a lot of fun, even though we were in the minority. And again, we had a Democratic governor and an almost Democrat supermajority in the House, Democrat supermajority in the Senate. So we didn't have the leverage that we do now. Having a Republican governor really changes things. And so, yeah, I've got just as a conservative record as Rusted, although mine's from 10 years ago.
There you go. That's a good way so I gave him a point. You took it away. You canceled. So you guys canceled each other's out on that one. Now tell me about Charity Clark. Charity Clark in this lawsuit and SNAP benefits. We sort of want to get into this here. So, we're losing Paul. So basically,
I heard a little bit Charity Clark in the SNAP lawsuit.
Oh, there we go. He's back. Yeah. So I'm dealing with this shutdown. I'm looking at all of this. And so what is it? 15 days today, 15 times that they have voted no to a clean CR. And that would have kept the government running until November 21 and restart SNAP. So 65,000 Vermonters, about 1 in 10 Vermonters will need help buying groceries and will end up, the federal payment for it will stop on November 1st. But now that they have made a deal here with Emily Kornheiser's Ways and Means Committee, it looks like they're going to get paid. Any remarks on this?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that our federal representation, Senator Welch and Senator Sanders, have dropped the ball and pushed this responsibility down to the state. And all they have to do, and this is the thing I've been trying to tell folks, it is a Democrat shutdown for this simple reason. Republicans have enough votes in the Senate to pass the bill. They have enough votes to pass the bill, but Democrats are invoking the filibuster. They're invoking cloture. If all the Democrats do is just don't invoke cloture, don't stop, that bill from proceeding, they can all vote against it, right? If they don't like what they're doing, they can vote against it. But they are adding a new barrier that does not need to be there. And that is 100% on the Democrats. It's 100% on Peter Welch and Bernie Sanders. These guys know that they're using Senate rules to add an additional hurdle that if it wasn't there, Republican majority would pass it. We wouldn't have any of this, confusion, this delay. The state is taking a risk here.
What do they do?
Rolling out these benefits and not knowing how long it's going to take. Who knows if we're going to be in a better situation by the 15th. We don't.
Yeah, it sounds like we're going to have to spend the same exact amount of money. But to me, everything always goes up there. And I mean, they're always talking about this SNAP benefits and taking food from children. And now it seems like they're using it as leverage for negotiating on the shutdown, and to me, some of the rhetoric with the senators and Becca, like how their tone is very inflammatory towards the feds and towards the administration. And, it's all day, every day. It's constant. And then when this type of stuff happens, does it feel like we're getting lashings and this could have been played differently?
I'm really convinced that Becca Balint is going to be the first congressperson from Vermont to lose her reelection since Peter Smith. She has been completely different person than she was in Montpelier. If you go back and look at, when she was first running, he's like, I'm a consensus builder and I work across the aisle. And like you watch those, like, the Facebook shorts or those little videos that she does, she has become the most angry woman in Vermont. I mean, she's constantly bitter and nasty. And it's just, that is not attractive to Vermonters. They want people going to Washington to get things done. And Becca's going there and she's mostly just complaining about what she can't get done. So I think it's the kind of thing like that is not, you don't see that kind of attitude that Becca Balint has from any of our other statewide officers. I mean, I got problems certainly with Welch and Sanders. Well, Sanders is a little bit like that, but Peter Welch doesn't conduct himself that way. Mike Piechek doesn't conduct himself that way. Cherokee, like
Peter
these are all
Welch is a little less. He does it a little less,
Well, he kind of gets away with it because he's like, the curmudgeon old man, right? Like he's like, what's his name from Curb Your Enthusiasm? What's the guy's name? He wrote Seinfeld. Larry, I don't remember. But like Bernie gets away with that because he's like, I'm just an old guy, so it's okay for me to be grumpy. Becca doesn't wear that well.
No. Like, I see what she's trying to do, but then she comes out and then the foul mouth stuff and then just this and then she does way too much angry posts where she comes up with new ways to ball it up, like the same argument. Like, how else is she going to complain? And it's like an everyday thing. It's rage bait for me. I have to remember not to go on her damn account because it's like every post I'm like, oh hell no, Becca, and same with Peter and same with Bernie Sanders. So like, I'm so guilty of getting sucked into it.
And you got to remember, especially for Becca, she's never been in the environment that she's in right now, right? She's always, legislated in Vermont, where Democrats, were the de facto ruling party, and whatever she wanted, she was going to get. And she goes to Washington and realizes the rest of the country isn't like that. It isn't the way that Vermont was. And so I think there's a degree to which, like, she wasn't prepared to be in the minority, and she's obviously a little upset about it.
Yeah, the whole thing's pretty weird. She made all those comments. She's definitely a new look for the state of Vermont. It's like a new low, and we need to figure that one out. This whole thing with the food stamps, I think that there needs to be a little bit more public pressure on telling these specific representatives that, hey, look, it's up to you to get this opened up because now we're in this terrible spot spending millions, and she said, Emily has long said that it was barely enough money to feed yourself, but she also was huge with this $350 million for climate spending and all of these other spending. It's like all of a sudden we're in emergency mode and they can't shut their mouths with the federal government, and anywhere in any of their offices, they're always so interested in fighting back and being activists, like, and protesters and burning it down. And then when they need the help, then they wonder why they're in trouble, or they've spent all their money on climate change and homeless initiatives, and they wonder why the state's broke, or there's all these other problems. It gets ridiculous.
Well, I think one of the things we've seen in the Trump era is Democrats have been, I think, as you said, the party that just wants to burn it down. They've become opposition for the sake of opposition. And that's one of the reasons that Democrats did not do well in the 2024 election. They're not offering a positive solution about how things can get better. They think, if we get rid of Trump, it'll be better. And voters found out that wasn't the case from 2020 to 24.
It got worse.
The
Biden
promises were made that just weren't followed through.
It was a worst case scenario. It was historic of like, what the heck? Where is Biden? How is he this old? How is this all happening? And then the price is just everything. They just ran away with it. And so here's another question about, we'll shift back to, Vermont. We have a lot of people watching us. We got 2,500 people watching us live. Do you host regular county chair meetings? How do you foster teamwork with the group, and how do you plan to expand on this moving forward?
Yeah, so at the state level, we hold quarterly meetings. So once a quarter out, so we get 4 in a year. And in the last couple, what I've tried to do is we've got kind of regular business we do in the morning, and then the last one we did, not in August, I think it was in April. I did a special recruitment workshop afterwards. When I first came into the state party, the biggest gap I saw in terms of capability was recruitment. Right? So I own my own financial services practice, and I know if I need a new client, I've got to have this many meetings, I've got to have this many interactions. I've got to talk to. You've got the whole sales funnel idea, right? And I said, where is that for our candidates? What's the process we have? If we don't have enough candidates, what's the process we have to go out and get more? But we didn't have one. So I worked to develop one and had a lot of help from some of our House members as well. And I start out by thinking, who do we have that's gotten elected, that's been a good rep for us? And start to kind of create a profile of what a successful representative looks like. And once we started doing that, I recognized that most of our Republicans who get elected are people who have a lot of connections within their community. And so as I started to think about that, I'm like, all right, well, how do we go out and find more people who are connected to their community? And I've broken it down in basically 3 areas. There's the municipal area, there's the nonprofit area, and then there's the for-profit area. Right? Because when you start out and say, hey, who should we get to run in Brattleboro? And everybody looks around and says, I don't know. You know anybody? I don't know. Do you know anybody? And the question's so big, it's hard to answer.
Yeah, but you can't break it down.
What's that?
But yeah, I see how you're going to break it down here.
Yeah, once you say, well, is there anyone on the select board that seems like that would be a good representative? Is there anybody, that's the fire chief, the police chief? Is there somebody who's in a school, right? For Republicans, maybe it's more math teachers and gym teachers, and not so much language arts and history. Is there a football coach, right? I mean, down on the other side of the state, I was a wrestler in high school, so everybody knows about Mount Anthony. The longest streak of high school championships of any sport in the country anywhere belongs to Mount Anthony. So everybody knew, right? So if you were involved in the wrestling program in Mount Anthony, you would be famous in that area, right? So sometimes there's coaches like that. So anybody in that municipal world, right? The local government. Second area is a nonprofit. So is there somebody at the food shelf? Is there somebody at 4-H or the Eagles Club or the Lions or the VFW? Is there somebody who
I use the clubs around here all the time all the time for networking. The Elks, VFW, the Legion, like all of those types of the Rotary Club, that those are huge, in the Eagles, those people show up who show up to those clubs. You can get people who show up to your committee or show up to your event. And
then the third area is for profit, right? Is there somebody in town who owns the general store that everybody hangs out, right? In every town, there's some place that has a really cheap breakfast that has about 5 or 6 old guys who meet there every day at 6:30 or 7 o'clock.
Of course.
Who owns that place, right?
Yeah.
In your area. Is there a lawyer in town who's done wills or trusts for half the people in the area? Is there somebody who everybody gets their property casualty, home and auto insurance from? Is there a real estate agent who already has their name on people's yards, right?
True.
And as you start breaking that question down a little bit more carefully, you think about the people in your community. You're like, well, that person knows a lot of folks. I don't know if they're Republican. I don't know if they want to run, but if they do,
you can
target be a great candidate. So I've done, after our state committee meetings, I've done workshops like that. And the idea is when we first open the question, nobody knows who should run in their district. And by the time we get done, you're looking at maybe 20 to 30 names of people that we can recruit. So those are some of the training.
The audience watching is like, you guys, they just basically trolled us because we nerded out on Republican committee rules and methods and stuff. So they said, no, stop it. So we'll have one final question, really. All right. And it's just really the most obvious. It's sort of like a discussion, but when it comes to Russ, I guess what everybody's talking about is money. You brought a check to my county meeting and you held it up for a certain amount and it was awesome. And so Russ made some claims of big dollar amounts saying that he basically has rustled up about $1 million worth of commitments, possibly around there. And that he's hoping for possibly $3 million in contributions if he comes in. Now, what do you think about that? That sounds great. And what are your ideas? Like, how do we get big bucks? Because clearly candidates need to be getting money to be able to run appropriately.
Yeah. I mean, I think not even the governor raised $1 million 2 years ago. So that's a pretty high bar. And if I was in Russ's shoes, if I was an incumbent senator, I would go out right now and be like, hey, if you can give me 100,000, I'm going to protect the Senate seats that we have. Just make sure we don't lose. I know the donors would give to that because Russ is going to be there through next year. He's an elected senator. That isn't in question, and he's involved in the Senate. If he can raise that kind of money, and even if he just says, I'm just going to use it to protect the Senate, I think donors would. I can't imagine why they would wait to give to the party. One of the things, that a lot of people don't appreciate is the party. The party is the least attractive place for people to donate to. They want to donate to candidates first, and then candidate groups after, because they feel like that money is going directly into that candidate. I can tell you from the state party level, a lot of our candidates, when they come to our trainings, they spend their money smartly. They spend it well. They target it exactly the way we tell them to. And sometimes we have people who just do what they want to do. They go buy a banner to put on their boat. And so sometimes candidate money isn't spent the best way. But if you're somebody,
that's a good idea.
Yeah, they already had the boat. They bought a banner to go on the boat. So I don't want to.
Oh, you can't buy a boat. Oh, okay.
I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. So I mean, I think after the election, if Russ has those kind of connections with those donors, I think there's a great opportunity for me to continue running the party, for Russ to run a Senate PAC that's focused on retaining the Senate seats that we won. We could get somebody else to run a House PAC that focuses on retaining the House seats that we've won. And the party can kind of be the venture capitalist and take risks on candidates that are unproven, and that we can go out there and try to gain new ground, having those two pillars securing the ground that we've already made. So I think there's, if Russ can raise that kind of money, there's certainly a place to do it as we move forward in the 2026 election. I just don't think having him as party chair is going to be the best use for the talents that he has.
So, okay. And then wrapping it up, how do you think the temperature is? How do you think it all plays out? Any predictions? How do you think you're doing?
I'm feeling pretty good. But I'm also taking this race seriously because 2026 is going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity for it. We have, again, I've seen the change in the donors that I've talked to who were very dismissive last year, were surprised when I predicted correctly how well we would do in some of those private meetings. And they're more engaged and more interested now. And if we drop the ball between now and November of 2026, I don't know that we're ever going to have another opportunity to do it. That's one of the reasons I wanted to stay on. Like I said, I've built connections and relationships over the last 4 years. I've got institutional knowledge that just can't be transferred that easily. And we got 6 months until the recruitment filing deadline is over. If somebody starts day one, 9 days from now, they're just starting behind the line of scrimmage. So that's sort of my pitch is we've got momentum. Let's not do anything to disrupt it. Because I can't imagine what's the donor going to say, hey, we had the most successful election ever, and then the party got rid of the guy who led it. Like, is that going to give them confidence, or is that going to make them step on the sideline and wait and see what happens? I think it's going to be the latter. That's my perspective.
Okay. So that's really it, and I think I'm very excited to see what happens this weekend for this little debate, or what was it called? Speaking event, to see how you guys all, shake out and we'll see what's said and everything like that. And so thank you so much for doing the interview. I know you're busy, and this is really revealing. You said a lot for people, weighing their options within the party. There's been a bunch of gossip and stuff, a lot of shakeups with different county reorgs, but everybody's pretty well connected and all talk amongst each other. So this is a big item coming up. November 8th, the state VTGOP re-election. So some pretty heated races. What do you think about Zach and the race for vice chair with other candidates, Greg Thayer and Will Kolb?
I think that's a little more interesting because it's a three-way race. So that could go a couple different ways. I mean, Greg Thayer has been around for a while, so he's got a group of people who have supported him because he's a known entity. And because he's been around, he's in the same boat I am, right? You're around long enough, and you have people who love you and go to the mat for you, and then some people who just don't like the look of your face, and they're never going to. So I think Greg's.
I've got a group of those.
Yeah. So Greg has his support, and then with Zach getting in the race too, there's going to be a split in the non-Greg Thayer race, and I think there's a lot of similarities between Zach and William Kolb. They're both young guys that are relatively new. A lot of people have been around, haven't had a chance to meet them yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. We do have a requirement in our party rules that any of our officers have to get over 50%. So it certainly could happen that we have to go to a second ballot if nobody wins outright.
What happens then? You knock one of the candidates out, and then the second ballot?
If anybody gets less than 30%, so if it was a perfect split, 33, 33, 33, they could all run again, and people would vote. And I guess you just hope they vote differently.
Yeah. It
So,
probably won't happen like that. It's going to happen. Someone's going to be the weakest link, and they're basically off, and then revote again and see who. There it is. Huh. Very interesting. We'll see if it goes to that. It could. Running three candidates is totally different, changes a lot of things. So,
right.
And obviously your race with Russ Ingalls for the VTGOP chair position. And I wish you luck. Thank you very much for doing the interview. I think it was really well done, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Hank, for doing this and getting a different perspective out there, especially in the deep blue area of Windham County. And yes. I look forward to seeing you next Saturday on the 8th.
Yep, I'll be up there. I'll see you there, Paul.
Thanks.
Yep, bye. So, what an interview. VTGOP chair race, vice chair race. Well, all of them are racing. There's a ton of different people running for different offices and whatever. But I thought the interview was done very well and I thought a lot of very good points about stuff. I mean, I asked him hard questions that people sort of shy away from. There's little chitter chatter here and there when you're at the top of the group like that. You could only imagine that people are going to say what they're going to say, and I asked some pretty hard questions to him about money, about Trump, about his opinions. I kind of like his let's go Brandon thing. See, the thing about being mad about Trump, that doesn't disclude him from teasing Biden. Like right off the bat, when he does the let's go Brandon joke like that, all of a sudden I felt more identified to him in that realm, It's two different topics. So he was more relatable to me after that. It was smart of him to bring himself into the group of other people who probably would make let's go Brandon jokes, etc. and whatever. Jeff DeForest says, great interview, Hank. Thank you very much. Edward Chinichi says, keep up the great work, Hank. We definitely appreciate it. Peace to us. Someone wrote all the way on YouTube. Roman wrote, Kermit is Becca Balance chair. We have so many people watching on X. It's very important that you guys all tune in. If you're over on Facebook or YouTube, we've got 3,100 people on X. It's blowing up, and I hope everybody is enjoying that. Happy Halloween from Planet Hank to everybody here. Planet Hank live show, Halloween special. We've got a lot of show left. You're on X, please. Reshare the screen. And give me your heart. Please have a heart button. We really need as many hearts on this live stream as possible. But it's recap show. So, background. Oh, let me put myself bigger. Happy Halloween. So moving on to our very next, very important news segment of the very best podcast in the history of the state of Vermont. We have had a crime hotspot heating up, arrests being made, drugs being found. Our streets are turning into crime scenes, and nobody seems to have an answer. So one of the new hotspots we have in town for drug usage and criminal activity in the downtown area right off of Flat Street is the CF Church parking lot.
Sliver, better make sure you get him a warm burger, please. Last time I was up there, you guys gave me a cold burger and I was mad.
You didn't sleep through it being hot?
No.
Should have started off hot.
I don't know, maybe. I was kind of drunk last time.
Right over there.
We've had a number of overdoses here, a number of high-profile crimes go down here. it sort of turned into a hotspot after some of the other areas downtown, like the Preston Lot and the Transportation Center, have been policed more recently, which makes CF Church sort of the natural next destination where the group of people migrates as you push them out of one area or the next.
Yeah, there's a camera on.
Turn the camera on, just borrow his.
What's that?
I was just being funny. I said, turn your camera on, just borrow his.
Yeah. I don't think he wants me driving back with his.
There's going to be 2 syringes in there that I just found on the side of the road.
Are they both capped?
Oh, yes. I just found them on the side of the road.
They've got a number of cameras on the Transportation Center, and they put up a lot of cameras down the Whetstone Walkway, headed over by the co-op into Plaza Park. They've been policing the downtown areas more and more, and CF Church is sort of a darker, more quiet parking lot that not a lot of people will go into during the nighttime. So a lot of people can go out there. So basically this guy had a no trespassing order from a previous situation, and in an effort to sort of ramp up patrols in this area that they've noticed more activity, this guy was found to be in violation of his no trespassing order and placed under arrest. Crazy. So the CF Church parking lot is heating up every night when I go out there on patrols and respond to calls to make the important message carrying Brattleboro news, which everybody loves, by the way, the greatest news in the state of Vermont. I find all kinds of crimes down here, drugs, overdoses. I've Narcan people down here. I've helped people. I've saved lives. I've watched our heroes in the EMS ambulances pick up so many people and bring them back to life. But the CF Church lot, it is the next stop because it's dark in there at nighttime. There are some parking lot lights, but the other thing is that on the light pole, there are power outlets on the pole. So people can plug their phones in and charge their phones and do certain things at night. So it sort of draws all kinds of people into the area here in Brattleboro, which basically is the new hotspot. Now, that video you just saw is posted on all my social medias. Please like it and share it. If you want to watch it again, you could go back there. Invite other people to follow our social media. Our X.com account is blowing up, and rightly so. We are the finest podcast, news replay production on X, and everybody knows it. And we are fighting back against the BS and all of the people who want to peddle you lies every day in your lives. And so today is much like the other shows that we put on. We have another very important news story I'm going to share. I'm going to be breaking this story. There was a major drug bust with a bunch of guns in Brattleboro, October 28, 2025, around 5 p.m. Residents on Harris Place, Brattleboro, Vermont. Brattleboro Police Department, with help from Vermont State Police, led by Cody Evans, executed a search warrant. What went down? The officers raided the home and seized felony levels of fentanyl, crack cocaine, a big stash of cash, several firearms, and they arrested on site Ella Thorne Thompson, 37, from Brattleboro, and Scott Kilbasa, 41, from Brattleboro. Key charges for both: cruelty to a child, fentanyl trafficking, possession of cocaine, possessing a firearm during a felony, $5,000 bail. Next court date, October 29th, 2025, Windham County Superior Court. Why it matters: fentanyl fuels deadly overdoses across the U.S. So by getting this off the street, we could be saving lives with this search warrant. Crack cocaine and guns mixed. That's a recipe for disaster, violence, in our local neighborhoods. All of those guns, look how many guns they had. I mean, I'm counting 16 guns, 8 handguns, 8 rifles. Now, here's the twist. Ella Thorne Thompson was a recovery coach and drug counselor at Turning Point in Brattleboro. And not Turning Point like Charlie Kirk. This is one of these nonprofits that does drug therapy or whatever, and they advocate for people, and they have a place over on Frost Street where, homeless people or drug addicts can go in there and receive food and help. And it's a nonprofit in town and everything. And so they get drug recovery coaching there. And this is one of their coaches. Someone being arrested for sales of fentanyl and crack cocaine is serving at Turning Point on Frost Street in downtown Brattleboro, is a recovery coach dealer with a bunch of guns. She's helping people fight addiction. She recently spoke at a Windham County event on opioid crisis, sharing her six-year sobriety story and quoting on addictions, brain hijack, higher functioning, and reasoning don't stand a chance. Total hypocrisy. Ridiculous. We don't have a chance. If the very few recovery sources, avenues for people to access recovery coaches or get any help at all here in Vermont, especially for free, if you're homeless or destitute, and you get there and your recovery coach is a crack dealer, a fentanyl dealer, loaded with guns and ammo, I would say sobriety is very slim. Turning Point has been on the skid. Things have not been going well over there. They've had a number of people over there getting all kinds of trouble. She preaches connection over sobriety and empathy for recovery, yet allegedly traffics the very drugs her clients, shattering the trust in Turning Point services, scaring those in recovery who saw her as a role model. More charges could drop. So, huge shout out to Brattleboro Police Department, Officer Cody Evans, executing a perfect warrant, finding exactly what we pay the police and would expect from public safety situations in our town. That's a new low, Brattleboro. Child endangerment. Drug recovery coach busted for selling fentanyl and crack cocaine with a bunch of guns. And on this picture here, she's featured with Captain Petlock of the Brattleboro Police Department several years ago. But, and then here's her with her child, and it's just like, come on, what's going on? Big story released, so we'll see what happens with that. So moving on into the state, we sort of talked about it, the lawsuit that was filed by Attorney General Cherokee Clark. Let's talk about this a little bit more. So Tuesday, 28th of October, Vermont Attorney General Cherokee Clark joined 22 other attorney generals and governors from Kansas, Kentucky, Pennsylvania in suing the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, and Secretary Brooke Rollins over the illegal suspension of SNAP benefits amid the federal government shutdown that began 30 days ago on the 1st. The coalition argues the suspension violates the Administrative Procedure Act by ignoring billions in congressionally appropriated SNAP contingency funds, despite USDA funding other programs with emergency money, denying food assistance to over 42 million Americans nationwide. A temporary restraining order will be filed today to restore benefits urgently preventing hunger for vulnerable families, AG Clark stated. Denying SNAP funding is illegal and cruel. SNAP was created to help feed our neighbors in hard times. The lapse threatens public health, strains food banks and schools, and harms local economies. USDA estimates every $1 in SNAP generates $1.54 in activity, affecting millions who rely on it for basic nutrition. Over 65,000 Vermonters receive $12.6 million monthly in SNAP, supporting 600 plus merchants and rural businesses. Delays will spike food insecurity, debt, and reliance on overwhelmed pantries, with rippled effects on health and safety nets. And it's true. Oftentimes it's assumed that people who are Republicans are against those who rely on food stamps or other types of benefits, whether it's welfare or any of these other terms that have been stigmatized. And it's further from the truth than you think. If you genuinely need assistance, and you are facing hunger, Republicans and conservatives 100% want to be giving you these benefits and helping you out. Now, there are rules to the programs that need to be followed. And one of the rules is that you need to be an American citizen. And we're having this huge debate, and the left wants to keep trying to sneak stuff into these bills and spending that covers illegals. And that's a hard no, and waste, fraud, and abuse for people who are on SNAP benefits or other programs that should not qualify. Like a 35-year-old man who's playing video games and smoking pot all day, sitting at home, should not be getting food stamps. Those are for families, for sick people, for old people, for children, for hard workers. So the people losing these food stamps in Vermont are working class people who deserve to be able to have their food stamps. This needs to get resolved. And this needs to get resolved by opening up the government, or at least making a clean CR. Like, it needs to happen. We need to get our senators to vote differently. If they really care about children who are going to lose, and then their choice is to spend millions of our dollars out of our contingency funds, and then their plan is to go back and continue to vote against passing a contingency. This is ridiculous. You can't spend all of our money here in Vermont and then go back down to D.C. and basically have bought yourself with Vermont dollars a bunch more time for you to negotiate and put us at risk. Because if you don't open that government after the 2 weeks, this is just going to double the cost, and it's going to bury Vermont. We're going to be paying for this forever because you guys want to go and play activist down in D.C. That is not in the best interest of what Vermonters need or want. And so open the government up. Don't put all your energy into resisting. Seems simple, but for whatever reason, people seem to forget all about it. So the Brattleboro News Recap Show and all these wonderful, wonderful interviews and stories that we do could not be possible without our great sponsors, Kings Electric, the absolute finest electrical contractors in all of the land. Everybody knows that they're so good at what they do, you should hire them to wire up your house or whatever you're working on. Kings Electric, residential, commercial, electrical contracting, licensed and insured. Head over to Kresge's with your car. Kresge's Alignment. Canal Street. Mike Morio is one heck of a guy, supports everything that I do. Bring your car in and get it serviced today. Rod's Towing and Repair, Exit 4 in Putney, Vermont. Wonderful church-going, family-run business. Great people. They love Planet Hank, and I love them for it. And my man, MOB Pilot Car LLC, Mike O'Brien, holding it down. A very good boy. Man, it looks great to see 3,600 people tuning in to see all of my sponsors' logos splashed across the scene. If you're watching it and enjoying this show, please consider supporting their businesses with the Brattleboro News viewership. We're out of Brattleboro, Vermont. We have all the very best news in our communities, and we are fueled by Real Progress, the very best political action committee in the state of Vermont. If you're looking to change, if you're looking to get some results, consider donating today. realprogress.net. Now, this next video that I have is absolutely amazing. And it gives me goosebumps when I watch her. And I don't know if you're a fan or not, but Caroline Leavitt is smoking them down in D.C. And it's awesome to watch. It literally is. Watch this video and enjoy.
That Medicaid money has never gone to illegal aliens in the United States of America.
I'm not denying anything. I'm asking you if you can explain the disconnect in the message.
I most certainly can. The Democrats' proposal, their continuing resolution, let me just reiterate, the Republicans' continuing resolution was a clean continuing resolution. There was no partisan politics injected into it. There were no conservative wish lists injected to it. What the Republicans want and still want to this very second is a clean continuing resolution to fund the United States government. What did the Democrats want in their continuing resolution? They inserted a provision to undo a provision in the Working Families Tax Cut, the One Big Beautiful Bill, that ended taxpayer-funded health care illegal benefits for illegal aliens. Democrats' proposal would require Medicaid to pay more for emergency care provided to illegal aliens than Medicaid does for American patients who are disabled, elderly, or children. And this bill would have also allowed California to continue a gimmick that funds its Medicaid for illegals program. Those are things that we ended, the Trump administration ended, with the passage and the signage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And it is an undisputed fact, a fact that under the Biden administration, illegal aliens were absolutely receiving taxpayer-funded health care benefits. In fact, in fiscal year 2024, Medicaid costs for emergency services for illegal immigrants skyrocketed by 142% from the previous year to $9.1 billion. That's $9.1 billion taxpayer dollars that were going to emergency services for illegals. Between President Trump's last full fiscal year under his first administration and Joe Biden's last full fiscal year, Medicaid spending on emergency services for illegal immigrants nearly tripled. There was an increase of 196% between 2020 and 2024. And I have a chart here for you, and I'm more than happy to email it to you. I'd also like to add, because some were asking dishonest questions yesterday about emergency rooms. In Southern California, according to healthcare professionals in 2023, under the Biden administration, Southern California's, quote, entire healthcare system was being bombarded with illegal immigrants and forcing American patients to endure longer wait times. In Denver, Colorado, the CEO of Denver Health stated that 8,000 illegal immigrants made 20,000 visits to the city's health system in 2023, leaving an uncompensated bill totaling over $10 million. So when an illegal alien goes to the emergency room, who's paying for it? The American taxpayer. The Maine Safety Net Hospital in Denver had to turn away patients due to the massive influx influx of illegal immigrants into the community, and UC Health Hospitals in 2024 reported their system was under stress from an increasing number of migrants. As a result, according to the head of emergency departments and urgent cares across the hospital system, quote, access is impeded for everyone. These are healthcare professionals who dealt with this directly, and there's a lot more where that came from. It is an undisputed fact that Democrats want to give taxpayer-funded healthcare benefits to illegal immigrants.
Coming in.
Down the fence.
We're ready.
Crazy. Okay. And so she literally just throws it down. And man, I mean, how much better could she have just broken it down and showed it all out? And I absolutely love watching her smoke the Dems on this issue. And let's go. Open it back up. Don't come out here and whine and politic with children's food, working families' food. It's ridiculous. You need to open up the government and stop trying to stuff in this crazy stuff for illegals. You guys are full of it, and you're not representing the American people, and you're messing with people's money, and we're all sick of it. And we know what you're up to. And so this weekend, I'm going to throw this up. This is the November event. Sunday, November 2nd. Paul Dame talked about it a little bit. This is up there in Williamsburg, Vermont. Live entertainment guest speaker. And guess who the guest speaker is? The guest speaker is this guy right here. This guy. And I'll be speaking for a few minutes. Free coffee, tea, apple cider, politics, and pie. Please come out there, especially if you like going and seeing me and doing stuff like that. It's really good. I can't wait for it. Shout out to all of the Republican caucuses and everything going on. But right now, and it's spooky season. So we are going to have, I'm going to set the mood for one of my favorite things to do in this show. Okay. Happy Halloween to everybody. Just so you know, it's very spooky out here. Here's a little pumpkin for me right there. And what I'm going to ask everybody to do, thank you for the stars. Thank you for the stars. Oh, here's a comment we'll go to on X. X is blowing up with 3,800 live viewers. I just want to throw out there that 89% of SNAP participants are working families who pay taxes. SNAP is paid by federal. This month, it's a little different with taxpayer funds, but SNAP has had a bad rap. These people receiving assistance are hardworking Vermonters. Just something to think about. Yeah, we don't want to take SNAP from Vermont's children. We want the Dems to open up the government and avoid all of this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite my very best friend in the world, Marco the dog. I'm going to invite him to come to the Planet Hank live show studio. I need 3 people to put up dog emojis. Edward Chinichi, Sherry D. 3 people need to put up 3 dog emojis. And I will give America's favorite dog. Well, I'm gonna take this down for now. I'm gonna give our best boy this dog bone. Let's go, people. Put up the dog emojis in the comment section. 3 dog emojis in the comment section, and then he will get his bone. The Planet Hank live show, Vermont's favorite podcast. We go live every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Let's go. 3 dog emojis, or I won't give it to them. They're not putting them up there for you, buddy. They are not putting these dog emojis up for you. I see how you guys are. I see how you are. The whole song, we didn't even get them? Yeah, I don't think so, everybody. So where are we at? Where are we at? Put up these dog emojis. There they are. Sherry again? No way are we dealing with only 2 people. That's it. I'm going to put the bone down. Nope. That's Edward and Sherry. There we go. Rachel did it. Okay. The Planet Hank live show. The absolute finest form of entertainment. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We've got so much more content coming out for the Brattleboro News. New types of reels, new types of everything. I love doing this show. And remember, when they're all trying to talk all this smack and they're all getting angry, Planet Hank live show, broadcasting across all platforms. Absolutely love you guys. Thank you for watching. And, share it up. And check us out for our next interview next Thursday night with Greg Thayer. 8 p.m., the Planet Hank live show.
Planet Hank Live. The absolute finest entertainment on the internet. Join us in fighting back against evil.
It's hotter than a blacktop in July, sweating like a sinner in a church, and I just wanna get out with my crew tonight and shoot at the lights. Got a couple 40s full of hops and fun, looking for a good time.